Boom. What's up, everybody?
Yo.
What's going on?
There we go. There's the perfect echoey voice we like to hear.
Actually, I need to take off echo cancellation now. Back crystal clear. Here we go.
Actually, it's not too bad.
It's not too bad.
I mean,
it's way better than our first episodes.
Yeah. The bar's still pretty low, so you're set. All right. Well, cheers, everybody. Glad to see we got some good people on here. I see Alan, Jason, Cole, Dennis, everybody in the chat. So appreciate you all tuning in. As somebody had hinted at earlier, somebody did tip me off that the national championship is tomorrow, and that would be Blake. So that's why we called an audible and we moved it to tonight. So that's what you get to see. So
yeah, our local teams are
to make sure. Yeah.
Our local teams are never involved, so we don't pay much attention to the playoffs.
Season's been done for us for a while.
Yeah, about Thanksgiving.
Oh shit! Even at this point, basketball season's about over too.
Gosh.
Ooh, Kentucky's not looking good this year.
Oh no, it was
or any year.
Man,
for the struggling right now.
Yeah,
I don't know what it is, but
I'm getting rid of Calipari.
I tell you, it might have to go to Louisville baseball. Coach Dan has got quite the program, so let's all be Louisville baseball fans this year.
Ooh, that's
I know it's tough. It's tough.
You didn't get many active participants on that one.
No one is in for that.
Let's just play pickleball. Let's start a pickleball league. That's my new focus.
I got rackets for actually. My wife got me a set, and I got her a set for Christmas, so we're ready to play.
Hey. Did you all not talk to each other? You just got each other sets?
No, just it's like
Brian, you'd be like the perfect partner because you can cover like pretty much 70% of the court.
It's if it weren't for arms, I wouldn't be playing tennis either.
Yeah, you're like Kevin Durant out there.
If Brian becomes the Kevin Durant of pickleball, like all of a sudden he's just on ESPN one day hammering it.
Hope they have an old man league. That's still my speed.
Hey, you can come play with us anytime. We love it. We play at least once a week.
Nice. Yeah, I haven't played yet, so you'll if you'll take a beginner, I'll join you.
Oh, if you've been playing tennis, you'll probably beat me the first time. So
I haven't played either.
I'm sure everybody's loving the pickleball talk. But
I mean, we can talk about pickleball for the next 20 minutes.
I love it.
There could be a 2020 prediction with that. You think there's like the first pickleball
2020?
Sorry, 2023. Did I say that? Oh. First pickleball sponsored and bourbon sort of collaboration.
Yeah, it might be in the works.
Yeah, there you go. There you go. And I saw Chad and Sarah just got done. Thanks for a little love on your stream tonight for your United Oak collection. Appreciate it. Checked it out a little bit earlier, so thank you. But all right, y'all ready to kick this thing off?
Let's do it.
All right. Welcome, everybody. We're back with another brand new episode of Bourbon Pursuit, and this is, of course, the Bourbon Community Roundtable. Kenny and Ryan here tonight. Fred said he was ending his streak, but I don't think he was on a streak. He's off and on. It's what it seems like. But either way, we are excited to be able to kind of come in. We have one big topic to talk about, and since it is also the first episode of the new year, that always means that we're going to go and look into our crystal ball and figure out what we're going to get wrong, because we're going to go back in December and figure out, did any of it actually come true? So we'll end the show talking about some 2023 predictions. And so we'll kind of dig into our idea bucket here and see what we come up with. But
we really didn't need Fred, because every year he predicts that Four Roses is going to get bought out. And, he's been 0 for I don't know. Whenever he joined us, 0 for 6.
Probably. Yeah.
Yeah. You keep hoping, and one day it might come true, but it's not really a prediction if you just keep putting the same thing down every year. That's saying like we want to grow by 1.5%, right?
Yeah, he's gonna die on that hill. That Four Roses will get acquired.
Yeah, and I will put it out here is that we can't say as a 2023 prediction that there will be some big acquisition, because there's always some big acquisition. So we got to narrow the scope a little bit. It always seems like we just we'll just throw a blanket statement out there. But let's go ahead and let's kind of get this kicked off here. So the first topic that I want to talk about and bring this up, and I usually have some notes, but I'm kind of going all by memory here, is the one that has kind of really been talked about over the past few weeks, and it made a lot of national headlines everywhere, and there were a lot of other topics out there about Sazerac leaving Republic National Distributing Company in around 30 different states. Now, they didn't really go too much into detail into the press release. Go figure, they want to kind of keep things a little hush-hush. That's perfectly understandable. I did send an email to Mark Brown afterwards asking him about his opinion into this as well, and he respectfully declined to comment on anything, which was very nice of him, but at least he answered the email. But as we go through here and we start looking and start picking apart exactly Sazerac leaving Republic, and I want to take it and break it down into 3 different sections here. And so the first section that we're going to talk about is, what does this mean for Sazerac? Then we'll talk about what does this mean for Republic and just distributors in general. And then we'll talk about what does this mean to the end consumer. Because a lot of people are looking at this and go, oh, great, I'm going to get more Pappy and Eagle Rare is going to be on the shelf. And we'll talk about that and probably tell you why you're wrong. But as we get through here, I think we should probably start at the top and talk about what does this really mean for Sazerac? And I'll kind of kick it off and I'll push it over to you all a little bit. There's been a lot of good speculation out there. And the one thing that immediately came to mind, and I said this on This Week in Bourbon last week, is that Sazerac has almost become like Bud Light. It doesn't really need to have a salesperson anymore. And as a Bud Light representative or as somebody that's a distributor, somebody that owns that particular SKU, they're just an order taker. They go into a store, they see where it's depleted, they go and they bring in more. They don't have to sit there and try to get more placements in stores or anything like that. So as a distributor, typically they always work on around 25% margin or something around there. Well, depending on how big you are, you can negotiate that term to get down even lower. And I'm assuming that's exactly what happened with this as well, is that Sazerac took this as an opportunity to say, well, I can go and find another smaller regional distributor that will go ahead and they'll take 5 to 10 points less. And when that happens at the scale that they're at and the scale that they're going to be, you're talking about millions and millions of extra dollars that will be back on their books instead of actually having to go to a distributor, because it doesn't need any selling at that point. If they come out with the next crazy version of whatever, we'll put a 2023 prediction, like what's going to be the new E.H. Taylor edition this year, like something like that, that is not going to need any selling. And for the most part, even standard Buffalo Trace doesn't need that as well. So I kind of look at that as an interesting way to be able to do this. But I also kind of want to get your all's thoughts. Is this is it a good move for Sazerac? Was this a big shakeup? Is this something that we could see trickle into other types of big dogs, if you're going to talk about the Heaven Hills, the Centauris of the world and stuff like that too?
Yeah, I mean, so I think there's a few different ways to look at it. First, like Kenny said, it could just be a pure business thing. Hey, they get 5% from a different distributor, but RNDC is a really big company. And so I imagine there's a lot of just ease of working with the same company in 40 different states, whatever it is. RNDC is one of the biggest privately held companies in the country. Like that's not bourbon, that's not whiskey, that's any privately held business. RNDC is in the top. So there's some efficiencies there that I imagine they could have given Sazerac. RNDC is also under investigation, I guess you'd say, for some things like bribes and other things to suppliers. We all talk about it on the show. It's like, oh, you want Pappy, go sell a bunch of Wheatley vodka. So you can look at it as like a conspiratory thing as well. Like is Sazerac just trying to distance themselves from that whole thing? While that hasn't made major news, it still keeps popping up pretty consistently. So I think it could be a bigger deal than we think when we start to look at.
Was your thought right there that they want to distance themselves from unfair practices? Was that what you're
correct
implying?
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah, that would be my thought. And like my attorney Brian would say, this is all speculation, and I'm doing this for the entertainment of our discussion. But yeah, I mean, if the bourbon world thinks of them as the company that is always like the one who, hey, buy Wheatley vodka, buy Fireball, you'll get Pappy, you'll get Stag, whatever it may be, you'll get Blanton's. And then you have the distributor you work with get investigated by the TTP, the IRS, and there may have been one other agency on there. It's like, maybe we need to kind of distance and spread ourselves out a little bit, because to me, it doesn't seem like a business move. Like RNDC would be able to cut the best possible deal and give them the easiest way to operate. But then again, we've seen this happen multiple times too. You know, Beam's left distributors, other brands have left distributors, but for some reason, to me, this seems like it could be a little more than just that. So.
And I guess another question to you is, if, you know, other brands like Beam and stuff leave distributors, why is it something like this makes more waves inside of media circles? Is it just because it's Sazerac and the sort of
I think because it's Pappy. You know, it's Sazerac. It's the big brands they have. You know, I think it's just that's always going to draw attention in this world, because then everybody says, "Oh, finally, I can now get George T. Stagg." Or it's like, well, that's not. You know, I'm sure RNDC has a decent amount stocked away in warehouses, but in general, they were selling everything they had. So I don't think that's going to change. But I think just because of the brand attention that Sazerac has with their bourbons, it's automatically going to be more noteworthy than others.
Well, it's a good question, because when I first saw this, all of the headlines were producer of Pappy and BTAC gets new distributor. I'm thinking, who cares? I didn't even open the links when I first saw them, wondering why should I care about it? But I think as you've teased out the three topics we're going to be covering on it, there's a lot going on under the waves here. And I think Blake hit the big one, that all the rumors that we hear, and some people vouching for the truth of it, of having to buy Fireball and Wheatley vodka and those sorts of things just to get your allocation of even Eagle Rare and Buffalo Trace. And no one ever knew really what whether that was driven by Sazerac, which would have been probably illegal, or whether that was a distributor issue. And it's a good point Blake makes, that maybe they're distancing themselves. I saw it as just a play. It's always about money, so they can get a better deal by fragmenting it and taking away the leverage that a distributor has for having 30 states under their belt for you. And if they can fragment it, then they've got more power, and that's kind of consistent with what you've seen a lot from Sazerac.
Yeah, I think you're hitting a good point there, because I've talked to other distributors that we also work with, and they take our products and put them into quote unquote package deals. So if somebody goes and buys one case of our stuff and 2 cases of something else and another case of something else, well, they get a break when they hit 25 cases. It doesn't matter what it is, but it's a break of whatever. So they could be, it's not just a Sazerac portfolio, but it could be a lot of things inside of the RNDC portfolio that they are trying to package up to try and get that buying power inside of there as well.
Yeah, I think those are both really great points, Blake, that, yeah, the distancing themselves. I think there's probably some of that. I don't, and obviously this is all speculation, but, you know,
I've trained you guys very well. I love
yes,
it.
I know.
We just need to start every show
over the last 72 episodes or 76.
Yeah.
But a lot of the bigger brands are with either RNDC or Southern Glacier, and you know, there's a lot of really big brands with deep pocketbooks competing for attention. And so my thought is like, okay, Sazerac looks at this and says, okay, well, we're sitting here, as Kenny and I are learning, incentives move product in the marketplace, and whether you like it or not, that's just the way it goes, and it's the way it is. So Sazerac may be looking at this like taking advantage and saying like, well, if we move away from RNDC where we're competing against Heaven Hill or Centauri or Brown Foreman or others, you know, we can go to a mid to small side distributor that, you know, we're their only big person that they have to compete with, and they're going to put all their attention and all their focus on us, and we don't have to get involved with all that noise and mess that you're having to deal with Republic and you know, Southern Glacier or whatnot. And so, yeah, there's a lot of things going on. I really wish we could find it all out because it's such a the 3-tier system. I think it just shows once again how flawed it is. It's really just there's so many inner workings that people just don't understand, and Kenny and I are learning that, unfortunately. But it's I don't know. That's maybe one way I see Sazerac. They're pretty brilliant, in business strategy, and I could see them saying, "Look, let's get away from our competition and go and take advantage of these mid to small companies and see if they can we can get a better deal, but we're also going to get all the focus and whatnot." And like you said, it's package deals. We're not going to be involved with those anymore and whatnot. But I don't know. That's just my thought. But you know, we'll move into topic 2. So I'll rest my case with that. After we get Eric's opinion, of course.
Yeah. So I think you're right about the focus, because I think Sazerac is, they have all their brands and all their products, and they're all their little babies. And, they're not seeing the distributor give them enough attention. So they're kind of looking like, oh, we're not getting, the returns and that sort of thing that, our brand deserves. So they're looking to see who else out there that, wants to pay them the attention that they think they deserve. And I think this always comes down to these big plays like this. It's always these big companies, they're looking for control and money. I think that's exactly what's going on here is they're jumping ship because they want more control of their product, and they want to make more money, and they want more margins. And, and I think they feel like maybe their products aren't being leveraged enough with the current distributor, and I'm sure they're probably setting some crazy, margins or goals that they're trying to reach every year, and they're unrealistic or not, but that's the goals that these big companies set, and they're not hitting them with RNDC, so they go, all right, let's go someplace else and try here.
No, it's very true. I also there's another great idea, or should I say another kind of angle to this that came out. You can go check it out on YouTube, Bourbon Real Talk, Randy Sullivan. He made a very good clickbaity type of title that said, now that Sazerac's moving away from RNDC, will there be more Pappy on the shelves? But he did say that, and this is a really good thought process into here, is that perhaps they had too many eggs in one basket. Because if you have all of your chips here, I guess you could say, well, how many analogies can we throw at it? But if you put them all in one spot and you have a problem with one region, or you make a deal with one region that's different than another region, then all of a sudden you've got this crosstalk that happens and everything starts getting out of balance. And so that's one of the other reasons that potentially you move away from this. I always say one throat to choke. Ryan always says one check to write sort of mentality. And you move into something that is, yes, it's a little more, I guess you could say distributed is actually the right word to use. But for the most part, it's going to create, again, more individual relationships, more individual types of transactions that you'll have to take care of, instead of potentially being an overarching matter of this. But the way that we're learning into this, I don't think it really matters whether you have one big distributor or whether you have a bunch of small distributors. You're still working with all of them individually and regionally. So that was it was one thing to kind of talk about and look into there, but I kind of saw that as another kind of little bit of an aspect I think that people might take note of too.
Yeah,
So
it's such a strange, like I try to relate it to other people that own businesses, and I'm like, imagine that you have to sell your product to a place that controls where your product goes, and then another person has to sell your product to this place. And it's like there's so much out of your control with this 3-tier system. And Sazerac, I think this is just, I think they have more leverage with a smaller to mid-sized distributor that they can really push them around and say, hey, we're like, with Republic and Southern, this is going to be a huge hit to them, but still they're going to be just fine. But with, to a small to mid-sized distributor, you staff and prepare for all this, and you don't do whatever they say. Basically, whoever is taking on their business is going to be a puppet, for Sazerac from now on, and they're going to say jump how high, and they're going to do exactly what Sazerac wants. So I think, as Eric said, the control factor is a very important part in this. Yeah, and Kenny saying throat to choke, it's really nice. Like you can tell who's the relationship person in this business.
Which
Now,
is funny because, I was going to say, like, Sazerac and Buffalo Trace have always been big proponents of the 3-tier system. And it's almost like, Southern and RNDC are that's what we all think of the 3-tier system, this massive distributor that kind of controls the whole demographic, country, everything within alcohol. And now they're like, we don't like that. We're going to go find somebody else. It's like, so it's almost a little bit contradictory, it seems like, but maybe I'm digging a little too deep there.
Yeah, but if I'm a small to mid-sized brand that's with one of the current I see that list of distributors that Sazerac's moving to, I'm going, oh shit, this sucks. I'm no longer going to be the focus. I'm gonna have to start to like really work hard for my, for attention and whatnot. I may be looking somewhere else. I don't know. It's I would hate that, and that's what's going to get. I think I fear for the brands that brought these mid to small size distributors to where they are going to get forgotten, and I hope that doesn't happen.
Well, that's good. I think let's go ahead and we'll line this up and start moving to that second portion of talking about the distributor aspect of this, and what does it mean for the distributors that are getting access to this, and everything like that too. Because I've heard a bunch of different numbers thrown around that Sazerac has, I don't know, what it was, 700, or there was another zero, maybe there's 7,000 SKUs or something like that. And as a distributor, that is a lot to take on. If you, as Ryan said, you have this sort of back and forth to try to figure out, if I'm already with one of the distributors, now what happens to me? Am I getting lost in the shuffle? Are they going to be able to bring in more staffing to be able to take care of this entire portfolio that's going to be there? Because if it's just the same salespeople that are going out there, well, they're going to go for the easy sale. They're getting paid on a percentage point no matter what. So they're going to take the easy sale when it comes to it. And they don't have to worry about selling anything else. Now, you do have the other side of this, Ryan, where if Sazerac comes in, well, as a retailer, they're going to want to listen to everything that particular distributor has to say. So if they have something new on the truck, well, all right, whatever mid-size distributor, let me go ahead and hear your pitch because I want access to all your Buffalo Trace stuff. So potentially there is an opportunity in there, but I would lean more towards your thought process too. Maybe because I'm more of a pessimistic when it comes to it and not really looking at the glass half full, but that's the way I would look at it as well.
Yeah, and if as BT said in the chat, if I'm a brand that was with Republic, I'd be thrilled that Sazerac left. It's one less big dog you got to compete with. I mean, that's I'm sure all the other brands working on Republic are pumping fists and stuff. Like, yes, one less crowded,
a little room to breathe.
Yeah,
the distributors, to the point of them, saying how high when Sazerac jumps. I mean, that's going to lead to problems too. So hopefully they keep their independence, because for whatever all its failings are, the 3-tier system separates those tiers on purpose so that you don't have the producer calling those shots and leading to tied house problems. So there's some potential there, if that's the purpose of this, is to get more control.
Yeah, I could definitely see that. I mean, there's a lot more things that I could see coming from the distribution side of how this is going to either play in the short term and the long term. In the short term, there's definitely going to be a scramble. Once this all goes into effect, beginning of February here, very soon, I think that you're going to see a large transition period happening where brands people don't know where they're getting it from. They don't know how it's coming in. As I mentioned earlier, if there's really, 3 zeros worth of SKUs on the end of something like this, just a logistical matter for some of these particular distributors is going to be a nightmare, because I know what it's like to fill out a new item form for creating one new bourbon that we had to get in a portfolio. Shit, I couldn't imagine doing that for 7,000 items. So I think there's definitely going to be a backlog of just paperwork and what it takes to just build the infrastructure to get something ready for something like this. And then not only that is, I mean, just talking about infrastructure, you're talking about more product, bigger warehouses, more trucks, everything like that needs to be able to take in to account for something like this. But it'll be interesting to see exactly how these distributors are going to start playing out. And as we start talking about the distributor aspect, and as well as the producer side of things, just because we see this first domino fall, I don't know if I call it a domino, but we see this sort of shakeup happen. Do you think other brands, other big brands might get the same idea where you're going to see a Diageo or a Pernod or somebody like this that says, you know what? They might be onto something here. Let's go ahead and start exploring these options. And what could that mean as sort of like a trickle down effect too? Nobody speak up at once.
Well, I mean, I think it's like, what kind of effect are we talking about? Is it effect to the consumer, which is typically what we talk about here? But yes, and I think it could have a small effect to the consumer of what you walk in and see on your shelf every day or at your local liquor store. But in general, it probably won't. That'll probably be all behind the scenes stuff that we see. And it could even open up the way for like some smaller brands to get in there. It's like, if you've got this kind of mid-level distributor that now has a major brand like Sazerac or, say a Pernod, they may also get some other smaller craft brands or producers into more shelves and that kind of thing, because people want the bigger brand. So it could ultimately be a win at the end of the day. But for the most part, I don't think that would affect kind of the day-to-day walk in a liquor store, find a new bottle type of event. So
It's hard to speculate on if you'll see a trickle down effect because we don't know why exactly they did this, but
2023 predictions.
That's right. Yeah, it's I don't know. It is kind of head scratching because you like you said, you look and you like, as Blake said also, Republic and Southern have the most resources out of any distributor, and it's like, okay, it seems like you're kind of taking a step back in that regard. So I don't know. I think Sazerac's just always been very rogue in how they do business, and obviously it's done very well for them, and it's they're not they I mean, they continue to make good moves. So I don't know. It's that's all you can say, really. I'm going to pull a Forrest Gump. That's all I have to say about that. I don't know.
I'm with you on that. I mean, everything they've done may be contrarian, but it ends up working at least for them. So as much as I'm scratching my head about this and seeing the problems and the challenges in it, you gotta defer with this kind of track record.
Yeah, I think we'll see here over the next few years if it continues to be this vastly distributed model or whether they start consolidating again and kind of see where that goes. Eric, I'll let you chime in here.
Yeah. Let's see. I live in New York State, and this wasn't on the list of states that's being affected, but at the same time, I had learned a good couple weeks ago in December that the Sazerac distributor here, it was changing to a new one. So it wasn't, I don't know how this whole thing works, but so what they're changing to is they're going back to this distributor that they had a bunch of years ago. So they had one a bunch of years ago. They switched to another one they've had for 5, 6, 7 years. And now they're going back to that original one, and then we're talking about the trickle down effect to consumers. And really during that time, I personally didn't see any change for, in me getting anything Buffalo Trace related. The BTAC was still the same. Everything was the same. Everything along their products, at least in our bourbon world. Fireball and all that other stuff that they own, I wasn't noticing, but
yeah. So I guess that's kind of an easy way to transition into the last component of this, and we'll talk about the end consumer and the retail side of things, and will this change, and will we see any difference? So as Blake had hinted at the very beginning here, is that one of the potential reasons of going this route is to start breaking up that idea that there's too many sort of side games or anything like that, side deals that are happening that are potentially stopping stores from being able to do this. Because if there's a store that is paying X amount of dollars to get a few different allocated bottles, well, they're still going to continue to sit there and raise prices at the end of the day and have those secondary market sales numbers that are secondary prices that you're going to see for sale on the shelf at their store. As we continue going down here, and and I'll save my comments for last here, but what do you all think? Do you think anything's going to change for the end consumer, or is this just going to be business as usual?
I'd say with 100% certainty, you'll be able to get Pappy next year after this switch.
2023 prediction right there.
Yeah, bold 2023 prediction. No, I mean, honestly, I really don't. And if we look at, I was trying to find a list of brands that Sazerac has before the show to put in the notes, but I'm sure we can find that. But what we're talking about here is $1 billion company, but the bourbons we actually care about is probably like, maybe 10 million of that. If we talk about limited allocated bourbon, maybe 20. So in general, I think it's just going to be the same thing. I mean, it's just the nature of these products. So I don't know if that makes me just way too pessimistic about the whole thing, but I don't think anything's going to change, improve, or vice versa. So
I think if anything, we'll have more surprises, and maybe that means it stays exactly the same as it is now. But with this fragmentation, you're going to have different problems showing up at these different distributors all over the country, and some will get more from Sazerac, some will get less. You don't know who that's going to be. You don't know. They're not going to have a consistent approach to their pricing, or who they give it to, or why they give it to certain stores. So it's just, we don't know, and it's going to be a surprise in all of these different jurisdictions.
Do you think stores will have a better direct correlation or relationship with Sazerac through this, or do you think it's still going to be through the distributor, and the distributor is going to decide exactly how they allocate barrels, how they allocate Pappy, how they allocate this stuff? Do you think there's going to be a bigger, I guess you could say, stronghold from Sazerac, because they're going to have a little bit more influence into this now?
There better not be with the tied house rules. It better be the distributor that has those that control.
I was going to say, on paper it is, but I mean, that kind of to Eric and Ryan's point earlier, that control factor, you got to think that plays a role, but maybe we're speculating too much at that point.
That's the fun part.
There's a lot of talk of Buffalo Trace, or maybe it's Sazerac, having job listings on their website for a bunch of new sales positions, not sales positions, but like reps or brand reps or something like that. And I guess, there's the theory that they're going to have their own set of reps going to go out in there and, hyping up the brands, both to the stores, the customers, on top of the distributor reps already doing what they're doing. So if this is true, or is it just what, every brand does this or not, or if this is a new thing that they're trying to really push forward to having controlling their own set of brand reps going out and trying to push something, and not relying on just the distributor reps trying to push the product.
Yeah, I think the fascinating thing about this, and I really was hoping, I think it was like last year when like the Biden administration said the FTC or whoever was going to investigate, like beer and spirits distribution and unfair and whatnot. And I think this too actually nobody will give a shit, but they just care if they find Pappy on the shelf. But I mean, this 3-tier system is deeply flawed, and there's so many inner workings that people don't understand, and that that this something like this as a headline is fascinating, because typically a brand or a company should be able to distribute and sell their product however they want, but they can't. They got to go through different companies who have a say in how their brand's distributed and this and that, and then you have stores that represent. And so I don't know. I hope this maybe will give some more exposure to how screwed up this whole system is, but probably won't. And there's going to be no change for the consumers. I'm sorry, they're absolutely zero. I mean, I think it's going to be business as usual, just with a different company, that they can probably have a little bit more leverage with. I think that's probably the game here.
Depends how much beer you buy, because a lot of these distributors are actually more beer related distributors rather than alcohols or spirits. So interesting to kind of see them move to that play as well. So I want to say
They saw beer die and they're like, we better get
we're
something."
in.
We need High Noon or Fireball.
Nobody wants hazy IPAs anymore.
Nope.
Well, I mean, I think that's we touched on a lot of different angles there, and I think we all kind of come to the agreement that I don't think you're going to see anything change for the end consumer. It's still going to be just as hard to find everything that you see. I don't feel that their allocation or where they sell to is going to change any difference. You have this mixed perception of, well, why can I find Weller all the time in Ohio, but I can't find it anywhere else? Or I can find Eagle Rare here, Buffalo Trace and Costco in California stock, but I can't get it anywhere else in the world. So I think they're not going to change exactly where they distribute to and how they get it out. You're still going to have this potential backlog of product coming out, but this is always just hats off to Buffalo Trace. They continue to make great products at a relatively inexpensive price. There were some other comments here in the chat about, are we going to see prices start coming down closer to SRP at some of those states where you don't necessarily have control states? No, that's not going to change because you're still going to have the supply and demand issue. So unfortunately, you're still going to be paying, I don't know, $200 for an Eagle Rare 10 or some shit like that. Don't do it,
Yeah.
But
And some store owners will tell you like, well, I price it at $500-$700 a bottle because I had to buy that much Wheatley, and this is how I got to compensate. And I'm like, I don't know. I think you're just being. I think that's bullshit, but whatever. I don't know. But maybe
Yep.
not. I don't know. There's like I said, it's a fucked up system. So
yes, it is. It is. But we will see. Hopefully, we'll see this change here in the next few years with Buffalo Trace putting close to $1 billion into their infrastructure of what they're pushing and creating. Maybe the 2029 prediction is we'll start seeing Van Winkle tenure at least a little bit on the shelves. Who knows? I don't know. That's probably a flawed idea too. But let's go ahead and let's start making our 2023 predictions. So I think this is something that we have only semi gotten right one or so times on the show before. But I'll go ahead and open it up and kind of figure out, like, what do you all feel? What do you feel is going to be a prediction that's going to come true? We know that more celebrities are going to get into bourbon, right? Check box that. We know there's probably going to be an acquisition. Check box that. So let's get a little bit more narrow. Let's get some good ideas rolling. I'll turn it over and figure out who wants to go first and kind of give that.
I'll jump. Blake usually jumps on the prediction, but I'm going to get mine out of the way so people can laugh at it.
The general one out of the way first, so then I always sound right at the end of the year. So don't take that strategy from me. Kenny shut you down on that strategy this year. All right. So part of this people might think is just being hopeful, but I really think prices are going to stabilize in 2023. And I've got a side note to this too about shrinkflation, but I look at how long ago Wild Turkey's new still went online. That was like 6-7 years ago, right? Look at how long ago makers had their hidden mirrored stills behind that wall go online. That's been about 6 years. Everybody's increased production is now getting to that age where it's 5, 6, 7 years old. And there's been zero progress on opening up India and China. So I think we're going to start hitting the first year of true glut. And that's going to keep prices where they are. The second part of this is during COVID, the 700 milliliter bottle got approved. And I think we're going to have, even if it's the same price, there's going to be some shrinkflation. We're going to see major producers this year move from 750s to the 700. Then everybody will follow suit, and it'll be consistent between here and Europe. And it's going to be in search of 750s online. That's so kind of a two-part prediction, but they're related.
I like that. I mean,
I love that.
Yeah, we talked about the 700 for a while, and when that would potentially be the only thing that starts becoming a little more universal. And you're right. As we start going through here, you're going to see the price stay the same, but 50 milliliters just disappear off the shelf.
Well, and a lot of producers have probably, since that got announced, have moved through their glass, inventory I can start making room for the 700 ml. So I like that, Brian. I knew you're the attorney on this, Kurt. That's why we like you.
Well, I'll be wrong about this, but that's my prediction.
I like the 700 ml. We just got one of our first releases in 700 mLs for a shield box, and I was like, oh, I forgot they could legally do that now, which I think will be big for a lot of people who are in, international markets. I'm trying to make mine not as broad, but it's the comedian Brian Regan, where he has a bit about who's the cranberry salesman. There's cranberries everywhere. Like, I don't think bourbon is going to slow down at all. I think it's going to be more and more places, more and more things. With that being said, I kind of take the opposite approach of Brian. I think prices are going to just keep getting jacked up. It's going to be way more $100 bottles on the shelf everywhere with a bunch of different brands. And so I still think we got 2 or 3 more years of just brands coming out of the woodworks, all these new different producers, blenders, whatever it may be, before we actually see a slowdown of that. So that's kind of like a 2023 and beyond prediction. My kind of big 2023 prediction is the slowdown of barrel picks. I think we'll see far less groups just doing 1,000 different barrels and all of that. I think blends will be big. There'll still be some that do the major brands and that kind of thing. But in general, I don't think you'll see each new group that pops up has a new pick that they sell. So I think that's a really big change that we'll see. But yeah, we'll see what happens there.
Well, I'm glad you went because, damn it, Blake, you actually stole my prediction.
It's only because we had a phone call the other day, me and Blake.
I mean,
Ryan keyed me in on what you're going to say.
Smart move. I mean, my prediction was that 2023 would be the death of the mid-tier barrel pick. I just don't see this continuing to go. People have gotten so, like, everybody's shelves are stocked. Liquor stores are going to start pushing away unless it comes from the big six. So unless you're getting a Russell's or Four Roses or an Elijah Craig or one of those, nobody's going to be biting on it anymore. So if you're wheeling and dealing 5-year-old MGP and you're not doing some crazy toasted finish or whatever that people are trying to chase after, even if you're doing that, I feel like that's going to start tailing off too. There is just going to be a big glut of those sitting around. And to even kind of go what Brian was saying, we are going to start seeing a little bit of this glut because, yes, the buying habits of consumers are starting to change. They're starting to pull back just a little bit. And I think that's just because of the past few years, there was just a big buying frenzy. Now, I don't think that people are going to stop getting into bourbon. I think the category will continue to grow, but it's not going to be this people like us. The people like us have now gotten to the point where it's, and most people on the chat, and if you're listening to this show, all of us have at least 40 to 400 bottles. So the need to go out and rush and buy the next thing will probably start slowing down. And I don't know if that's an economics thing or an inflation thing where people are going to do it, but I think it's just to the point where gosh, Ryan, I think you said it best the other day when we started talking about stuff like this. And we talked about barrel picks being the unicorns of bourbon. And now we're like, well, now there's a unicorn at every single store. And not only that, there's 10 of them. So it's not really a unicorn anymore. They've just become so saturated in the market.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, you used to, if you were a store and got a barrel pick, even if it was a mid-tier brand, that was very rare. New Riff made a killing. You had an opportunity, 3 or 4 years ago that, the big six were scrambling to get standard product on the shelf, and New Riff's like, well, and so they couldn't offer single barrel picks, but New Riff's like, here, we have single barrel picks. And then all of a sudden, like every mid brand, it was, but now I think the big six have enough inventory that they can fulfill single barrel picks. And so it's kind of squashing out and making those mid tiers less interesting to consumers. But I do think, how many predictions do I get? I got like 5.
How about you give 1 and then we'll go to Eric?
Well, we'll let Eric go first.
All right, I got like 5 too. So here's a couple here real quick. Kind of to piggyback on Blake was saying, I do kind of agree with Brian that I think maybe prices will settle a little bit, but I think there's going to be a major expansion in the ultra premium category. We've talked about this quite a bit on Breaking Bourbon. I think everyone, 99% of consumers hate the $500 bourbon, but I don't think it's going anywhere. I think it's going to expand like crazy because the couple brands that have been doing it seem maybe successful doing it, and more are doing it, more will follow. It's just if the bourbon or the whiskey in the bottle warrants that price tag is going to be the deciding factor. And then my follow-up would be if American single malt gets approved by the TTB, how much is that going to drive that type of whiskey in the American market? And the remaining kind of big Kentucky distilleries that don't have a single malt currently on the market or have announced that they have one, do they have one? Have they been working on that quietly, and will they announce one this year?
Let's touch on that a little bit. So, do you think
it's one of my predictions? Go ahead.
Well, I mean, I just want to touch on a little bit, like, is because the idea of doing an American single malt is the idea of that just because now you're going to be competing against Scotch and single malts like that because that's what the consumers think, like that's what they gravitate towards, or is it because that's what the consumer actually wants?
Well, I think there's a little bit of both. There's I think a lot of learning and kind of adjusting to it. I think it's still foreign to a lot of whiskey or bourbon drinkers. It's a little more of an acquired taste. It is quite a bit different, but it's also going to be an American single malt versus a Scotch. So I think that's going to drive some interest.
Okay. I was like to say, it was like, I still like my sweet corn. So I want to keep throwing that in there unless, you just malt on my corn. Maybe.
But you got Jack Daniels releasing a single malt this year. I mean,
right.
That's humongous. That's telling.
Yeah. I mean, Kenny and I just had, one of my predictions, and this is kind of being playful, but we did. So Rare Character will come out with a Kentucky single malt, and then you will see other source brands follow it, just like Amber on a cask. And so, we had Rare Character's Kentucky single malt, and we are like, shit, it's pretty good, And so some Kentucky producers been doing it for a while. I mean, that's got a pretty good age statement on it, didn't it, Kenny?
Yeah, it was 12, 15 years, something like that.
Yeah. So somebody's been doing it for a while and had it in inventory. But yeah, I mean, just to kind of play on, I think bourbon category will still grow because I think a lot of consumers who got into it, in the last, say, from 2020 to now, got excited about, they're going through the same process that we went to. And, they got excited about it because of, Sazerac products, great Heaven Hill products, Four Roses, but they're kind of tired of like being let down just like we are. And I think there's like opportunity for mid-sized brands who are putting quality products at a good price, probably in that 40 to like, I'd say $100 range, that put out something consistently that's available. I think consumers are going to move away from single barrel picks to kind of something, and this may be a wish list too. Consumers are going to move from those single barrel picks and those LTOs to like something. I'm tired of chasing, but I really like bourbon and I want to find something that's consistent, quality, and available. I think MGP brands will lose steam this year because you have BBC, Green River, TDG, and Wilderness Trail brands that are starting to hit that 5-6-year-old range. And you have a lot of non-Kentucky brands that had their whiskey starting to hit, 5-6 years old and offer a ton of good flavor. And so I think consumers are going to shift that even maybe away from, the big six because they've been entrenched with them for the 4 years that they've been, but they're like, okay, here's this exciting brand over in Missouri or in Maryland or you name it that has 6-year-old whiskey now. I'm going to try it. And so I think if you have a good available product, at a decent price range that's not Kentucky, that's got a decent age statement on it, I think there's a huge opportunity for that.
I like how you're saying that because I'm sitting here, I'm drinking Bardstown's Origin Series as you sit here and talk about it. So
right, yeah, I mean, I think
one of those things.
Bardstown coming out with their own product, there's a lot of brands contract distill there. I think, them coming out with their own stuff, people trying it's at a great price point. I think it's $45, $50. and it's great whiskey. I think it'll get people more interested in brands that have been contract distilling there for a while. And then two, I think this is my last one. Sorry, I had a bunch of.
It's just
Wait,
it's just
two?
the Ryan show. Here's the thing: is that if he gets one
next
right,
2
he can at least
hours.
at the end of the year he can go, "Hey, I got it right." That's all that matters.
And did you hear he started
Ryan's
that by
still a
saying
bird
2,
shot.
but he's on like
Yeah.
7.
Yeah.
Well, I asked how many do I get, and I just went on with the whatever. But they kind of played on your alls that you said too. So, I think RTDs will continue to grow as a category. I think, with uncertain economic times, I think people will spend more time at home, maybe, and will. I think a lot of brands figured out, RTDs are and kind of how to best utilize them and probably just improve them over the last year. And I think you'll just have more and better RTD offerings. And I think that category will continue to grow as with uncertain economic times.
All right, Blake, we need to come out with a BCR RTD just because we got to throw all the acronyms on it, and let's just figure out how we can just create like 9 letters all the way
Just,
down.
Yeah. No actual words, just a bunch of letters. Like, oh, it's an acronym. Like, sir, that's a paragraph.
I'm in. Let's do it.
Oh, for sure. I mean, those are some pretty good predictions. Eric, did you have any more that if we cut you off there?
Yeah, no, I see I had some fun ones here. Just some potential products. How about a Woodford single barrel? Finally,
Ooh.
I've been saying this for years and years and years. I don't think we'll ever see one, but I would love to see one.
I mean,
they've
they've got
a
their
distillery only, or however they do it. But
they got their batch proof. They got
Got
some
the double
other.
oak single barrels, didn't they?
That's a blend, isn't it?
yeah.
Oh, it's a blend. Okay, gotcha.
They blend it and then finish it, right, as a single barrel.
So
Somewhat.
and then
I still think Four Roses is going to be sold. In,
We'll go ahead and just put that in with an asterisk with Fred next to it. Got it.
And then Fred just a couple days ago was talking about see if there was any interest in a 12 years maker's mark. So we're going to see that this year.
I don't know. That's what I'll give it to Jeremy
There
here
you
in
go.
the chat. He goes, put an H statement on the bottle for Maker's Mark. So we'll see if that happens. I don't think that's going to happen. They've got
Never.
their.
I'd love to see it.
They rotate barrels apparently. Still yet to see a barrel rotated when I've been on campus though.
It's right above that. It's right above that glass. They're rolling across the glass when you.
Oh yeah, and the Chululi place. Yeah. Was that it, Eric? Did you have another one?
I got a few more fun ones.
Yeah, let's hear it.
If we got the time, all right. Nothing not overly specific, but are we going to see a new product from Buffalo Trace or Four Roses? And it seemed like it's been a long time since we've seen a brand new product from them or something that's a wide release. No, I'm ready
it's a
for
good call. People have talked about Four Roses Rye. I know BT just put in here Four Roses Rye for a few years now. It's been teased time and time again. Talking to Brent Elliott, I had written down an earlier prediction that says, will we see another color of W.L. Weller come out this year? I don't think so, but it's a possibility.
The answer is yes.
I was going to say that, and what's the new E.H. Taylor going to be? Where are we at in their experimental releases?
Rice grain.
Oof, I don't know. Hey, we'll have to just check Coming Whiskey on Instagram because he seems to be on top of it all the time.
And then the last one would be is Cigar Batch going to be the finish or the blend of 2023? We're going to see a ton more. They just reviewed the Starlight Cigar Batch, and it's on my mind right now. If is that the next hot? Because we saw so much rum the last year or two. It seems like that. Well, I'm sure we'll see more of that. But is Cigar Batch going to be the new?
I think that has a pull. Ryan said earlier. Ambarana had a poll. Like
I hope that dies, Ambarana. Hope that my prediction it dies in 2023.
Well, Cigar Batch is
one
loosely
we
defined.
got one more good Ambarana that's going to come out in 2023. Then it can die. But let's just get one more in. Let's see what happens.
Just slide one more.
Yeah, let one in.
Watching the TTB this
One more
week,
in.
see what got approved.
Use your powers for good.
One
Ryan.
more on Sealbox, and that's it. No more.
Then we're done. We're done. I swear.
Oh, I love it. Well, guys, these are some good 2023 predictions. We'll be able to circle back here. I would say probably here in the next 12 months. We'll see if we got them correct or not. But you know, we'll,
All right, one more
is that
bold
how it
prediction.
works?
Who do you think will get acquired? You got to do it rapid fire.
Penelope.
Ooh, that was gonna be mine.
Okay. I was writing that down because I said if we're going to come out and we're going to say who's going to get acquired, that was already one at the top of my mind.
I'd say Beryl or Penelope are definitely up there for acquired. Another one, because it just seems being like the trend where it's they're buying for production capacity. So one I think gets overlooked is Southern Distilling in forget which part of North Carolina, but they've got really good capacity, and I wouldn't be shocked if somebody went and scooped them up because they're making some good stuff.
Eric, you got any?
Go ahead,
Yeah, I'll
Eric.
go. I had Barrel on my list or Westward.
Ooh,
Okay, there you
Westward's
go.
a good one. Yeah,
American single malt.
that's a good one, Eric.
People need to add it to their portfolio.
So I can't say Four Roses, right?
You could say, but
You can
it's not
say
going to
it.
happen.
I think there's going to be more consolidation with the big ones, and because they're like Pernod Ricard owning kind of too many right now, right? So do they flip Rabbit Hole, for example? So that's my prediction. They flip it to somebody. They flip Rabbit Hole to somebody else.
Interesting. I like that one. I mean, they just put down what $200 million for Jefferson's. Is that the number they did for their
Yep.
new place?
So they've got Jefferson's, and they'll focus on that. They'll have an experience or whatever, but they're looking for ROI and they'll flip Rabbit Hole.
Interesting.
Good take. Good take. Well, we'll see what happens here. There's a few people in the chat. BT said Smoke Wagon. I don't know. I don't know if I'll see Smoke Wagon. Dennis Weaven said Old Elk. Possible. We'll see what happens there as well. Both MGP brands. Interesting. So who knows if they'll get swooped up by
It's
the
Squib.
mothership. Yeah.
Frozen Squib, not MGP.
I know. I keep messing up. Thanks for keeping me on point there. But that is going to wrap it up for Bourbon Community Roundtable number 76. And I forgot to do it when we first opened it up. We just dove into it. I didn't let these guys give an introduction. So as we start closing it down here, guys, go ahead and please give a quick little blurb on where people can find you and how they can learn more about what you're doing as well. So Blake, we'll start with you. As if people don't know you because you've been on here 76 times already.
Yeah, Reigns Leader Disney. I'm Blake from Sealbox. So always fun to be here. I think this is probably one of the most fun episodes we do because it makes us really look at like what's going on in the industry, what's going to happen in the future, and kind of give our bold predictions, which are normally wrong, which I think that's any prediction. So no, guys, always fun to be here. Thanks for having me. Really enjoyed it.
Perfect. Brian.
Yeah, thanks for having me on number 76. Brian with Sippin' Corn. Find me at sippincorn.com, the socials, and Bourbon Justice. And I've got behind me a still. So my prediction for 2023 might have been, my house blows up when I try to actually use the thing. But I got it off of an estate sale.
So it's
Stephen
legit.
Thompson's estate. So it's from Stephen Thompson. So it's legit. Maybe I can just drop it off at our local Vendome and see if they can make it sound for me. But
that's what Stephen would have done.
That's what he would have done, and then I'll be sipping some corn. So thanks, guys.
That's awesome.
Yeah, just make sure you keep your vision. Make sure you keep those heads and hearts and tails all in line there. All right, Eric, your turn.
Sure. I'm Eric from Breaking Bourbon. Glad to be back again. Usually the other guys are on, but I'm trying to make an effort to come on, more than I usually am.
Hey, we're glad you're here.
Yeah, thank you. And you can find us at breakingbourbon.com, and we have reviews, articles, and release calendar updates all week long.
Awesome. Well, thanks, guys. Thanks again for being on the show. Thank you all for tuning in. Thank you, everybody that was joining here in the live chat as well. We'll be back next month. Probably not giving any predictions, but we'll also have just another new set of topics that we'll talk about what's new and hot and happening inside of the bourbon world. But with that, cheers, everybody. We'll see you next week.
Toodles.
And we're out. Which, by the way, after the first person that wants to drop off, let me know. We're all going to end it because in the broadcast, because what I started, you can do local recordings now. So it's been uploading your audio and video the entire time we've been doing this.
Nice.
I was
Like,
wondering why I got that pop up.
Yeah. Well, actually,
That's like
Blake's is the only
Kenny
one that
just
says
took
you have
over.
low disk space. So we might
Might be here all night.
yours is in yellow, buddy.
I thought Kenny was just hacking into my computer and like getting my iCloud in downloading my whole iCloud.
You
He's
know,
hacking in, trying to work on that connection with the microphone.
Yeah, I'm just trying to make sure we can.
Although,
I mean, I'm just trying to get paid. That's all I'm trying to do. I'm trying to get that seal box.
Exactly. I'm just trying to extort somebody here. No big deal. So I sliced my finger up New Year's Day, and I keep catching myself, and so I can't like bend my pinky. And
Let me see it.
But I don't even think about it.
How bad is it?
Oh, that's a deep one.
Is that on a rare
some
character
stitches there,
wax?
buddy? That's not a Neosporin cut.
stitches.
That's like you need to go to the doctor cut, man.
No, but like I keep seeing myself on video, like with my pinky up, and I'm like, I probably should qualify this or just use my right hand. And then I'll be driving in the car, and I'm like, I look like the biggest idiot driving like that. Yeah, don't saber champagne bottles. Actually, it wasn't in my defense, it wasn't the saber, and I sabered the bottle the night before. Then we were having people over, and I hadn't even had anything to drink the entire day. And I went to pull the bottle out from the fridge, and it started to slip. And I just instinctively put my hand down on top of the bottle, and it just filleted open. And thankfully, my sister-in-law is a ER or a OR nurse, and brought over like the glue. She's like, "You need stitches." I'm like, "I'm not going to get stitches on New Year's Day at 6 p.m. I'll be in there for until probably till tonight
with the rest of the idiots that savored their champagne bottles and
so if anybody's watching on video and they're like, "Dang, Blake's really pretentious holding his pinky up every time he drinks," it's because of an injury.
So you never did get stitches then? You just left it.
That's just like letting nature do its thing.
Letting nature do it. I mean, I've got like functionality, feel,
I'm glad.
All the big things. A
I
few
always knew those
promotions
NFL
are like,
players were tough.
Yeah,
He's coming off a big win yesterday.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was a big win. That was, encouraging words from Ryan halfway through the game is what got me through.
That's right.
So I guess you won't be hitting your driver for a few more weeks then.
No basketball, no golf. Maybe pickleball because it's one hand.
It's apparently the thing to do.
That wasn't crap. I forgot. I had another prediction. I was like, Sazerac will come out, replace Fireball with pickleball. But
actually,
that MGP
who's gonna do that? I did forget one prediction, but if you did like a pickleback, but made it like the official spirit of pickleball,
that's Jameson and pickle juice, isn't it?
Well, I think it's just I've always had vodka and pickle juice. I thought was a pickleback.
I thought it was Jameson and pickle juice, but
you guys are way more experimental than I am with it.
Yeah, I'm not drinking pickle juice
because I tried to.
Don't mess with pickle juice.
There's actually, yeah, you're right, Jameson and pickle brine.
It is weird that sweet and salty. It's not bad, but I haven't had one in like 10 years. I mean, so who knows?
So there's a like a. What would you call that? They make pickles, but like olives, and they brine all these things, but they do it in these big barrels. So I was trying to get them to sell me a barrel to do like a finish in it. So maybe that'll be my new 2023. Since Ambron is out, I got to go to the pickle finish. And pickle finish sounds like a perfect name for a.
Do it with Wickles.
Yeah.
I love Wickles.
I mean, I'm a big pickle fan in general.
Oh yeah, I love anything in vinegar.
Well, as long as you don't, the bread and butter pickles is kind of where you lose me because those are just full of sugar and everything.
Yeah, no, I like more vinegar based.
More the spicy.
I do like bread and butter.
I was gonna say too. I like the spicy pickle.
Right, vinegar spicy one. Yeah, like a Wickle. Wickles are the best.
You're right. Because I am trying to be a little bit of a pickle connoisseur, so I haven't started making my own pickles yet, so I haven't gotten to that far. But every time I go to the grocery store, I keep trying to find artisanal pickles to try, but I keep going back to Wickles because they just keep knocking on. I mean, they're just too good every single time.
Pops
So-
is pretty good too. You've had those probably, Brian, right? You had Pops
Yeah.
here locally?
Yeah, I've had Pops.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Those are
Mm.
good.
I guess if you're a pickle-holic out there, let me know. I'm always interested in trying your pickles.
Next time you come to
Kenny,
Kentucky,
I'm gonna
get
send you some pickles.
Hey, I'm in. At this point, I will trade bourbon for pickles. I'm happy to give away some bourbon.
oh gosh, yeah,
Yeah.
definitely.
Speaking of being overloaded with barrel picks, it's like a new box shows up every month for us because we do so many, and it's like, oh gosh, how are we going to drink all these? But thankfully, Pursuit Palooza planning's in the works, and I think we'll be able to have another.
Oh yeah,
another
that
Pursuit
should have been one of
Palooza.
our.
Oh,
That
June
should have
9th
been our
and 10th.
20. Okay, 2023 prediction is Pursuit Palooza becomes the city's biggest event in Louisville, and
Yeah.
Kenny
Not
rides
quite.
in on a horse to Churchill Downs.
Yeah, me and
Danny
Ryan's gonna have-
Danny Wimmers asked to come in and provide the music.
yeah, provide entertainment. That'd be
They
nice.
asked. They'll pay you.
Mm-hmm. Now we are working on a little bit different. I think we're going to try to get some sponsors this year for it to try and offset some of the costs because it's going to be more expensive this year. Last year we kind of did it through begging and pleading and whatnot and getting some free stuff, but this year's
The
gonna be a little
friends
bit
and
different.
family.
And I
Yep.
think we lost like $500 or something.
Yeah, we did. We lost money on it, but that's okay. I was like, we need to. It's a break-even event. That's the idea.
Mhm.
Until we want to make it for 4,000 people. And in that case, then maybe.
Well, yeah, I was gonna say if you want that Sealbox sponsorship, I'll cover that $500.
There you
Nothing
go.
more.
I bet you will.
I just need my face and logo plastered everywhere. That's all I ask.
Well, that's what I'm thinking. We're going to try to do that. If you want to, or you have somebody that wants to do this. I was like, I want to try to make one night sort of like a mini bourbon festival kind of night. So we'll bring in
Yeah.
sponsors and they'll have their products and people will be able to try it and also that kind of stuff. So I've got a list of people. Steelbucks wasn't on the top of the list, but if you're interested, we could always get you.
Said
Get
they
you,
were.
Let me
get
know
you a booth.
because
Wasn't
Get you a
it?
booth,
They
man.
weren't.
Hey,
We'll
thanks
get you
for that vote of confidence. Yeah, Sealbox wasn't on the top of the list, but I mean, if you're gonna pay us,
Well,
I guess
I
we'll talk.
I didn't know I didn't know you'd want to do something like that, so I didn't know.
No, I think that'd be fun. I mean, I think Ryan and I talked about that whenever y'all are at.
You can have a
Bourbon
kiosk
Fest
and everything.
last
Like
year.
people can just like check out right there and be like, "Here
Yeah,
you go."
Oh,
Well,
genius right
and
there.
so like none of the Kentucky places or like the Kentucky festivals really want to do that, or it's just crazy expensive. But I think that would be really cool where we could get all of our brands involved in whether it's product or sponsorship or whatever, and just say, hey, it's going to be Sealbox, themed, but it's going to be representing all the different brands. So I would be into that.
Okay, we'll brainstorm. There might be we could potentially do a whole night for that because you get so many different brands. So
If we do a whole night, I call at least one live performance of me singing and
We
watching
can-
Jaguar highlights and
as long as you bring that jacket you were wearing, man, it's a good throwback
Yeah.
jacket.
that's the real
it's the-
throwback. That's been in my mom's closet. Well, my closet, which
And you
my
have to do
son
the
has
No,
my
champagne.
hat.
you said your mom's closet first. That's
Yeah,
what
it
it was.
was in my mom's closet for like 20 something years, and then I've had it the last 3 or 4 years. So
Is that why I had shoulder pads?
yeah.
As
No,
long as
that's
you
not been
open a
working
bottle of
out.
champagne to kick off the weekend.
Oh, absolutely.
His
I
finger's
will
still going to
never-
be bleeding in June.
Yeah.
I will never not savor a bottle of champagne.
Mm.
I've
The
got
dates
one
are
party
the 9th and
trick, I can't
10th,
use
Kenny,
it.
you said?
June 9th and 10th is what we're aiming for right now.
BT was asking.
Yep.
Oh.
Yep.
All right,
Well,
Tony's
it'll
in
be
as well.
fun.
Everyone has these.
I'll put it down.
Mm-hmm.
All right, well, I'm clearing my calendar. Throw it on there.
Please
You
do.
know.
Yeah, I should have probably.
Eric, you
told
should
all as
come,
well.
buddy.
Yeah.
No, I'll try.
Yeah, I still got your hoodie, man.
You do?
Yeah.
I
gotta
figured
come
out
get
like it's probably gone.
No.
Hold on, what
it's-
hoodie?
We'll
They
make you
give out
notice.
Last time he was here, he pulled the George Costanza and left his hoodie behind in my car.
Hmm.
hoodies?
I
This is
told him
smart
I'd
of
ship
you.
it back, and he's like, "Nah, just wait till I come."
Still waiting.
Just see it in the back of your car and think of me.
Yeah.
There you go. You can sleep with it at night and just have it sit there.
Snuggle.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh. That's
funny.
what Ryan
All
actually
right,
stole it.
I'm
All
out.
right, well, here, let me go ahead and end the broadcast, and we'll see how this recording
Kenny's got to go download my hard drive while we
Yeah, we'll
sign
see what
off, so.
happens here. But thanks everybody for tuning in.
All right, guys.
We'll be back
Yep.
again, like I said, in a month with some more stuff and whatnot. Keep listening. Hope you liked Tequila Pursuit last. What was it? Yeah,
It's
last
getting
Thursday.
rave reviews, guys.
I mean, it was fun.
Yeah.
Like I said, half the reason I liked it was because we got to show that Ryan's been drinking shitty tequila for the past 2 years.
Yep. What I thought was the good stuff is not. That's like
Not the
I'm
good
just-
stuff.
Cat. Yeah.
Just because it's $150 doesn't mean anything. That's all the things that we love about bourbon, where you just can't add sugar and all this other kind of stuff. Man, that tequila's a whole different animal.
Wild West.
Yeah. They're
Yep.
like, you want to add some glycerin and vanilla? Yeah, okay, perfect. Here you go.
Yeah. Yeah. Yep. Matt, we're out. Appreciate it, buddy. All right. See y'all
right.
later.
See you guys.